Anyway, he's a two-time Olympian, three-time World Championships competitor, three-time winner of the California International Marathon. He is your online coach with the Royal Victoria Marathon and coaches the competitive U20 Harriers team. Please give a warm Royal Victoria Marathon Expo welcome to Bruce Deacon. All right, welcome Bruce, and thanks for coming here to do this.
It's a delight. No, I enjoy doing this sort of thing, and this is an exciting time. Everybody's all nervous and looking forward to tomorrow, so it's an exciting time for everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. So let's go back to the beginning. You wouldn't give this advice to your U20s now, I think, but and I'm sure you'll never grow tired of telling this story. But at age, I think 13, you ran a couple of marathons in Ontario.
Yeah, I was actually 12. And this was back in, 79, I think, or 80. And if you were a runner, you were running a marathon. You weren't really a runner if you were not running a marathon. So I did a couple. And at the time, I was a big Bill Rogers fan. He was one of the best runners in the U.S., and I wrote him, and I said, his fan mail, he was my hero, and I wrote to him and said, I'm running marathons and I'm 12, et cetera, and he was kind enough to write back and said, I think that's too long for a 12-year-old. And I think if anybody else had said that, I would have ignored them, but because he was just such a rock star in the marathon world and the running world, I listened to Bill, and then I ran shorter distances.
And then when was once you got that advice from Bill Rogers, the legend, when was your next marathon?
It would have been about when I was about 24 years old. So I waited a little longer, I ran shorter distances, I had some success at those distances, and then I came back to the event.
You have a little story about meeting Rob Reed, who's here. The guy who opened Frontrunners, the store behind you, that was at a camp, I think, or something like that, and you went for some runs with him, and that kind of motivated you as well?
Well, Rob was the guy that started me running. So I grew up in Ottawa, and as you probably could tell when I walked across the stage, I'm a short guy. I wasn't big, and any of the sports I was going to do, well, I wasn't good at sports. I wanted to be good at sports. And at about 10, I prayed, God, if you find me a sport that I can do well at and beat the big kids, well, I'll work really hard at it. And so I went over to camp, and there at camp, Rob Reed was, I think he was the waterfront director or something, a program director at the time. And he organized this running club, the 30-mile club. And the idea was we were there for 3 weeks, and if you ran 30 miles, and you got a white t-shirt with fuzzy letters that said 30-mile club. And everybody was saying, Rob's a marathon runner. I had no idea what that was. But I knew it had to be something special because whenever they said it, they would say, Rob runs marathons. And so I knew that, with that hushed tone of respect, whatever these marathon things were, it had to be pretty special. And in my clever 11-year-old mind, I figured that the easiest way to find out was to ask Rob for a run, and that way I'd have his undivided attention and I could pepper him with questions about what this marathon thing was. So I muster my courage up, I go down to the dock where he's working, and I say, Rob, can we go for a run? And he said, I'm training for a marathon, and the shortest run I'm doing is 5 miles, 8 kilometers. And for some bizarre reason I said, well, I can run 5 miles. Which was as close to a lie as you honestly could get, because the furthest I'd run was across the schoolyard being chased by some kid in a game of tag. But now I had to prove that I could run 5 miles, and there was a half-mile loop, so that meant I had to run 10 of them. And in my 11-year-old mind, I figured if you stop, then it probably doesn't count. So somehow I dragged my way around this 10 loops of this half-mile course, And by about lap 10, I figured, I bet you a lot of the big kids can't do this. Maybe this is my sport. And that was how I got hooked. And wow, what a fun sport this has been. I'm so happy that Rob ran a running club, and that's how I got to get looped into the sport.
What a great start, unusual too. Let's talk about, let's skip forward quite a bit and talk about now. You coach the U20 high performance team. You've had tremendous success with kids setting provincial and national age group records, and even some international records, and performing really well throughout North America and even over in Europe. How many athletes do you have competing tomorrow at one of the races here at the RVM?
Yeah, so we graduate a lot of people in the fall, or in the spring. So a lot of them are off at universities, and they're competing as far away as Tennessee and North Carolina State and UVic and a bunch of other schools and UBC. So the group is smaller. We have 3 people running tomorrow in the 8K, and all of them are older. They're university age or post-collegiate age.
Yeah, the U20 is typically middle distance, like 800, 150, 3,000, right?
You can always come back to road racing, so we try to start the teenagers running track races and cross-country races and shorter distances. And so we coach them. I work with Georgia Ginger. Georgia, give a big wave. She's my assistant coach. And so we have a group of high schoolers that have done quite well with various different distances, yeah.
How do you manage expectations of the kids and parents in terms of performance now, especially the kids on mind, and your goal of getting them hopefully to a school or some other level with a long-term sort of look at training? Must be a delicate balance.
Well, I think that whether you're running a marathon or a 5K or 8K tomorrow, or whether you're like in our training group and training for shorter distances, it's all about getting faster yourself. And so a lot of the focus is on running personal bests. And a lot of kids, the faster they run, the more opportunities open. But the focus is really about running better than you did before and improving. And I think that that's the same for all of us that are here, yeah.
Yeah, I introduced Bruce a couple minutes ago, and if you're listening, how many times has he won the California International Marathon for a pair of Vancouver Island Race Series branded technical socks?
I got 2 over here.
Just left the race package at the Biathlon booth last day. Can
we talk about
your race package here? Please go back in.
Vancouver Island Race Series has 8 races, starts in January, goes to April, right here on Vancouver Island, of course. And I've seen Bruce race lots of times in the series. Anyway, so congrats. So talk about briefly, we have another marathon happening in North America tomorrow. This one's the Chicago Marathon. Last year there was a woman who ran 2:09:56, which is a ridiculous time. Tomorrow we might have some more ridiculous times. Apparently John Correr is hoping to run sub 2:01. So he's going to go out at sub 2:01. What are your predictions for tomorrow, given the weather forecast and what have you?
Well, it's my understanding it's going to be quite warm, so I think that the thing with temperature and conditions is that it's hard to run those fast times when it's warm. So I don't think that those sort of times are realistic, but I definitely think that it's a fast course. People will go out quickly and have pacers to take them through, and they will have the conditions that they're quite a bit different than what I think we're going to get. I think it's going to be much cooler here, and it'll be much better for running faster times here. Might be a little rainy, but you can run well in the rain, and a lot of fast times are run in the rain. So I think we might have better conditions here than they do in Chicago.
Interestingly enough, Environment Canada says there's going to be rain, and it's periods of rain is their forecast. But I have a source that says no rain until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Here.
Well, let's hope your source is right. But if your source is wrong, then you can only get wet once, right? Now, you get cold over and over and over again, but you can only get wet once. And I run some fast times in the rain, and sometimes, the conditions, although it might be a little damp, they're still great for running your personal best.
Well, you, speaking of running in the rain, you won the Sacramento event, the California International Marathon, in a storm, and you beat a Kenyan with last name Rono. What was that like? Can you describe the conditions throughout? It's point to point, so you faced them the whole way.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. So I landed, I think, on the Thursday before the Sunday race, Thursday or Friday, and as soon as I landed, I had heard about this big storm that was coming. And everybody was watching this massive storm and hoping, they knew it was going to hit Sunday, but they were kind of thinking maybe it'll hit in the morning after the race, or, the worry was it was going to hit during the race. And it was a strong field, lots of Kenyan athletes. I was in, personal best shape, great shape, ready to run really well. And the race starts at 7, so they ship you out to the start line bright and early. And it was so calm, and there was no rain, and it was just this is going to be great, perfect conditions. And within about 10 minutes of the start line, the storm hit, and it got up to, I think it was 50-mile-an-hour winds and absolutely pouring rain. And there was a Ukrainian athlete that had gone out really fast, and I thought, look, I'm in really good shape. Maybe I can still run fast. And I went out quickly, not quite that fast, and so I got stuck on my own. And then I realized about 9 miles that this wasn't going to be a day for a fast time. And I think what really made me realize this is we were going up this hill, and there was a stream coming down the hill. The water was coming down so heavy, so much so that the people were cheering you on from staying inside their car and just honking the horn because they didn't want to get wet. It was brutal. And so I slowed down and got lashed onto this big Kenyan pack. And we were all African folk in there, and we were running along in about 20 miles. There was this massive puddle, and I was kind of at the back of the pack, and everybody was skirting around and trying to tiptoe around. I don't know why, because their feet were so tight this time. And I thought, you know what? I just kept telling myself, I'm from, BC, we do rain. And they're from Kenya, and they don't do rain. They don't run in the rain, in the rainy season often. And I thought, this is an advantage. I just kept telling myself, I'm a duck. I can run through this. And so they skirted around this puddle, and I ran right through it and just took off. And by the time they realized that this guy had taken off on them, they lost the will to try to close the gap. And so I did well there. So.
All right, and then there's a story I think everybody would love to hear. You were training for some hot weather marathon. I'm sure you've told this story a million times. You took a treadmill and you put it into a sauna, I think. Is that the story? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, no, not quite. But so the way that it worked was I first had a situation where I was invited to a race in Puerto Rico in the wintertime. And it's hot, it's humid. The race started at I think it was 5 o'clock or 4:30 or whatever, the heat of the day in Puerto Rico in February. And I had to prepare for this, so I started running on the spot in the sauna to get used to those type of conditions, and it worked pretty well. I ran a strong race in Puerto Rico, placed really high. It was really the first time I'd beaten a lot of the big names in running, and it was a real thrill. And so along came a few years later the Atlanta Olympics, and we got a place, an apartment with a sauna, and so I could run on the spot in the sauna. So there was no treadmill there, but I was just running on the spot. Years later, I raced World Championships in Seville, and that's where my coach at the time, Wayne Dimitrosky, had a heat chamber that he built around the treadmill in his garage. And so that wasn't quite a sauna, but it sure felt like it. It was up to 38, 40 degrees in there. It was pretty brutal.
Wow. So you've competed in the Commonwealth Games. 94 here in this marathon. You've won this marathon. You've won, as mentioned before, California International Marathon 2 times. You've run, I'm telling you information you already know. This is for these people. And you've run 2:13 4 times, long before super shoes. So competing in the Olympics and World Championships and having all those excellent performances, what was your best race?
I think my best race was at the World Championships in Gothenburg in 1995. I went into the race seated 70th, and nobody had very high expectations for me. But I was really fit and really ready. And so it was a 3-lap loop, and the loop went by the residence where we were all staying as the athletes village each lap. And so I figured, look, it's going to be hot. And we're having a hot summer, hotter than normal summer in Sweden. And so I trained for the heat, again running in a sauna to prepare and just getting ready. And so I just figured if I start slow and work my way through the field, people get discouraged as they pass by their room and they'll duck out, and I'll move my way up. So I left the stadium where it started. I think I was the second last person out of the stadium. And I just kept moving up through the field. And so by the last lap, I was in the top 10. And I was running with guys, I was catching people, and it was otherworldly because I was just starting in this. And this was kind of one of the first marathons where I was really competitive against the big names. So I was passing guys that I'd seen on the cover of Runner's World and Running Magazine and all this, and it was like half of me wanted to stop for an autograph, and the other half was just like shocked that I was actually able to beat these guys. And I got caught in the last, I guess, about 50 meters and placed 11th. But that was the highest placing I ever had, and in that level of competition, I think that was probably my best race ever.
Yeah, I agree, and 11th is high. There's not very many Canadians who've done better than 11th at a global championships, like an Olympics or a World Championships, which is basically the same level. It just, you move all the other Olympic sports. Funny though, a 3-lapper, that must have been torture. Because I know I once did a double out and back, and I went past the food and the trophies. And I wanted food and trophies, I didn't want to do another lap. How many are doing the marathon tomorrow? No, a number of you. How many are doing the half marathon? All right, so it's split. Who's doing the 8K? All right, good for you. It'll be a great day. Do you have any tips? Let's start with the marathon, the big one, the franchise events of this 45th annual Royal Victoria Marathon. Can you give us some race day tips?
Yeah, I think that the biggest tip is start on your pace. So if you go out too fast, you can't bank time. You can't go out real fast and that way you've got a cushion. Generally doesn't work. You can't get a small cushion. They say about a 1%, but if you go out faster than 1% of your split, you're going to run into big problems. So just pace it even. Don't get too crazy on the hills. There's a number of just easy rolls up and down, and don't go charging up or racing down. Just keep it steady according to the effort, and hit it on your pace. I think the other thing, regardless of what distance you're running, there's going to come a time in the race where, wow, this is really hard, and you just have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared for the fact that there's a place in the race where it's not just going to test your physical training, but it's going to test your mental fortitude, your toughness. And you just have to be ready for that so it doesn't surprise you. And when it comes, you got to talk your way through it. Right? This is a good time for self-talk. And so I would use kind of some cues. I would say, you got this, or you're feeling strong, or stay loose, or and you use the people around you too, right? Like you've been running with this person for a while and it's getting hard. Well, you don't want to let them go. You want to stay with them, and you can talk to them. You can say, "This is getting hard. How about you?" And work as a team kind of thing. Sometimes as you get towards the end, you can get a little competitive, right? Like you've been chasing that lady in the yellow shirt for a while, and there's no way you're going to let them get ahead. So this is a time when it's okay to be competitive. You know, there's so many places in life where being competitive is kind of viewed as a negative trait. And when you're in a race, this is A-okay. And so you can race other people, you can out-sprint people at the finish. Nobody's going to think any less of you. You can be as competitive and gritty as you can be. So I think the other thing too is just stay happy. You're doing this because it's fun, because there's an energy. Because when you get that many thousands of people involved in an event, all doing the same thing, all going towards the same finish line, it's fun. There's a buzz. You're going to have people along the way, and they're going to cheer you on. This is an exciting event, and it's a lot of fun. And so just keep in mind that you're having fun. If you're happy, you'll run better, you'll enjoy it more. Keep a smile on your face, even if you have to remind yourself to smile. It's worth it.
Very good. Hey, in case anybody thinks, hey, that guy's kind of weird. He's got running shoes on with a suit. These are Brooks. You just mentioned Run Happy. These are Brooks shoes. They're a sponsor of the event, and their motto is Run Happy. So after this, you can go to Front Runners and get yourself a pair of Brooks running shoes. Half marathon advice. This crowd is split. Marathoners and half marathon.
Yeah, I think for most people, the marathon and half marathon strategies are the same. You don't want to go up too fast, and you want to, make sure that even if it's a wet day, you want to still be taking some fluids. If you're out there for a little longer than an hour and a half, which I think most people will be, then you want to make sure you get some sugar or some fuel along the way. If you're bringing gels, hopefully you've tried the gel before. If you're taking the bars along the way, then hopefully you've tried those. There's an exact booth over there. You can try the bars that will be out there on the course. So I think those are some tips. I think the other tip that I give is arrive early. You put all this training in. Don't make this stress on yourself of like you're getting there and you're hoping you're not going to miss the start. Like take the time to arrive early. If it's raining, bring a garbage bag and make a poncho out of it. You don't want to green garbage bags, and always chuck that to the side. Keeps you dry right in the corral. But get to the corral early. Don't be leaving it to the last minute. This is not a time when you want to be late. But yet every single year we see people that arrive at the start line and the start has already happened and they're trying to get caught up. And they're trying to weave their way through thousands of people, really like be on time.
Early is on time. On time is late.
On time is late.
So when you get to Uplands, if anyone hasn't done the marathon before, there is a long climb at I guess about 15K, somewhere around there, and you see the golf course, Uplands, or is it Victoria? It's the Victoria golf course. It's a long climb, and then when you turn around later and come back, you go down that long run. You mentioned by feel earlier in one of your tips here. So is that a time when you don't look at the watch and just run by feel up because it's going to be slower? And it's going to be a little faster going down, but controlled?
I look at hills in a marathon or a half marathon as running them by rhythm. So you want to try to keep the same rhythm. And the same rhythm will be slower going uphill and faster going downhill. But you want to keep the same stride length. You don't want to try to force anything. You don't want to charge up a hill. You don't want to sprint down a hill. You just want to keep the same rhythm. So you're trying to save energy on the downhill, not try to make up time. And you're trying to run as efficiently on the uphill and not try to reduce any time loss. It'll all work out in the end kind of thing.
Hey, if you want to have some fun for just 1 second, I want to do something. And then I have one more question from you, Bruce. Really appreciate you being here. So the fun is, I'm going to introduce Bruce all over again. I didn't have the cameras on until after we started talking, so we don't have an introduction at all. So what I want you to do is, after I introduce him, cheer like it's amazing, as it is. He's an amazing athlete, great coach. So here we go, I'm going to introduce him again. All right, welcome everyone to the 45th Annual Royal Victoria Marathon Expo. My name is Christopher Kelsall with Athletics Illustrated magazine and the Harriers Running Club. The club has been involved with the race since its inception in 1980. As the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Esquimalt, Songhees, and West Saanich First Nation would say, "Hi squad," or welcome. Anyway, he's a two-time Olympian, three-time World Championships competitor, four-time 2:13 marathon runner, Pan Am Games silver medalist. He's your online coach. Give it up for Bruce Deacon.
You know, most speakers are happy with one introduction. Like, I feel so privileged. Two, wow.
Well, I had that in this.
I'm coming back to do this with you again, Chris. I get 2 introductions every year. Wow.
Oh, maybe we'll have an outro as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe not the final question, but there's somebody running the 8K, and the 8K is an interesting course because it's got an up out and a down back. It's not that long. It's 8K. Any advice to dispense in this 8K course?
Yeah, just plan on running well on the downhill. Unlike the longer distances, when you get to the downhill on the 8K, let it rip. Right? That's where you can really go hard because you've got gravity working with you. So
it's so fast. There's timing mats on that downhill to see. I think it's a kilometer split, right? For measuring your kilometer in like the 40th kilometer of the marathon and the 19th or 18th kilometer of the half marathon, and I guess your 5th K, the 8K. So when you get to Terry Fox, actually just before you get to the Terry Fox statue at mile 0, you see a flag on the top of a hill. If you're not from Victoria, it's called Beacon Hill. It's flat there and then starts to come down. It's a beautiful down to the breakwater, so you want to bust it out like Bruce just said. Then it's flat after. And flat is interesting because after you go downhill really, really hard, it kind of feels uphill a little bit. So you got to dig deep in those last couple of kilometers with their corners. Then you start to hear the crowd, and you'll really want to finish strong. Any other tips for tomorrow, Bruce?
yeah, so you know, if you're feeling a little nervous, it's normal. So it just shows you care. So if you've got the butterflies happening, it's just because you care. You put a lot of work into this, you train hard for it, you're ready to run, and so if you're feeling nervous, it's okay. The good news is when the gun goes off, all those butterflies go away. So you just got to get yourself to the start, get yourself through to when the gun goes off, and then you're going to feel great. It'll be the last thing you're thinking about is any nervousness, because all the butterflies disappear. So one of the things that I do to try to handle the nerves right now is I focus on what I can control. So you can't control the weather, so forget about it. You can't do anything about it. You can't control your competitors, but you can control yourself. And so just remind yourself of what you do typically in training, right? You've done long runs. This is like a big long run. You know, 6,000 to 8,000 of your best friends. You know, like you can control how often you're taking water or eating something or that sort of thing. So you focus on the things you can control and you remind yourself that you've practiced them. You trained for it and you're all good and it's going to happen. The other thing is there's some things, if you have a little bit of a bump in the road with your training, maybe you got cold and you had to miss a week of training, or you know, you had to do a niggle and you weren't able to get that last long run in, don't worry about it. Because you're going to get around all kinds of people, there's going to be such an energy, it's going to feel really good. If you let carry you along during the race, just by that energy, by the people around you, and by the excitement of the moment. So don't worry about that sort of stuff. Just be confident that you're ready to go and you're going to have a great race tomorrow.
Terrific advice, Bruce. And then if you're doing the marathon, I guess the half marathon too, would you take a week off completely of running, or would you jog lightly on the grass 3 days the next week? What would you do after to ameliorate, if I pronounce that right, healing in the lower leg?
Yeah, you've worked pretty hard. So typically, what I would do is I'd take a full week off, and then I come back to running maybe a short distance every second day. So maybe 20 or 30 minutes of running every second day for the next week. And then by the third week after the marathon, I'm starting to do something that looks a little bit like my normal routine, but a little less mileage.
Oh, I have a question for you. I totally forgot about it. Shoes. Okay, well, one is, I can tell you, and you probably know, but I'll say it anyway. Don't wear a shoe you haven't worn before tomorrow. Okay, because you may get blisters, or they may not work for you in the way you want them to. But yeah, so super shoes. Think of super shoes. What's your general take on super shoes? Because you ran before super shoes all those fast times. You would have been even faster. But what's your thought today? Is it pay or play?
Yeah, so if you look at marathon times before and after super shoes in the cleanest data set you can find, which is the Japanese runners. Very low drug use, very high number of top level marathoners. And if you look at their top like 10, 30, and 50 in their rankings, the shoes have made anywhere from a 3 to 5 minute difference. And that's over like 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 11 minutes or faster. So I think for a lot of people doing a marathon with super shoes, it could make the difference of 6 to 8 minutes if you're running at, a 4-hour marathon or that sort of thing, which I think is quite significant. Even at a shorter, than a 3-minute difference is quite significant. And one of the ways that it does it is it gives you more balance, but the other thing is that because of the higher stack and the softer foam, it doesn't beat up your legs as much. So when we ran before super shoes, man, your legs hurt at about 30 kilometers. And the last 10K, 12K was really hard just because your legs hurt so much. With the super shoes, there's not as much trauma to your legs. And so you're able to race at your best further into the marathon.
Would you suggest that, if you go out and buy some super shoes, that you train more in a lesser shoe to develop the lower leg so you can really take advantage of the super shoe and not train all the time in the super shoe? What's your advice on that? I kind of led the question, sorry.
Yeah, so first of all, super shoes are expensive. Like these are racing flats. They're costly. They're not meant to last forever, so don't expect them to last 600 to 800 kilometers. They're probably going to last you about 200 kilometers or less in some cases. So if you're going to wear something like that, get it so that you can try it out in a training run or two and maybe do some speed work in it or that sort of thing. And then save it for your race. And all the other training that you do, just do it in regular running shoes, right? Training shoes. So I've had kids that I train that want to do their training in these, super stacked carbon fiber shoes. They want to do their easy runs and that sort of thing. It's just not a good idea. Just save those for race days or for really hard training.
But you still need a good shoe. Like you can't go out and Stan Smiths or something like that.
It's not recommended, Chris. I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but no, you want to get a good running shoe. You want to get a good running shoe that fits your foot. There's lots of great ones out there. I recommend that you go to a running specialty store, and then you can buy shoes cheaper online, but all the service that you get in terms of fitting and all that kind of stuff, it's the local running shoes companies that are doing a lot to help our sport locally, wherever you live. And so go in, take the time, try on a few shoes, and buy there and get a good shoe that fits your foot. And once you find something that works for you, keep to it. I like to have at least 2 pairs of running shoes going at the same time, and I like to alternate them. At least 2. If you look at my garage, you realize that that's a massive understatement. It was more like 20, but nevertheless, I would try to get a couple pairs of training shoes and just rotate around.
Yeah, his wife knows when he's bought some shoes because he's really, really nice. And she goes, "You just bought shoes, didn't you?"
So it's I see, as I mentioned, the 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. I see some people looking at their partners, and it's like, yeah, I know that you live the drama that I've lived. But
Touche.
I think it helps. I like to have a racing shoe, something I want to run harder, faster stuff in. And I want to have a couple pairs of training shoes that I rotate around. And, this might be your first race, or maybe it isn't. I think one of the big training tips that I have is don't run the same run every day, right? Like when you first start running, maybe you go out for your 5K every day, but you get really good at running that, but your body never gets any faster or fitter. So you have to keep challenging your body to adapt by running longer runs, by running some speed work, some harder runs, by running some hills or something. And so just to mix it up is a huge big difference and helps you get fitter, regardless of whether you're training for a race or just trying to be the fittest you that you can be.
Hey, how many miles a week did you used to run in training when you're doing your heavy training, or kilometers? You can speak in kilometers. We're safe here. How many kilometers a week would you do?
Yeah, 160 to 180.
What? 160 to 180 kilometers? So 100 miles to 120 miles sometimes?
And mostly at 110, 150, 100 to 110, 150.
Yeah, John Brown used to do about up to 110 as well. He used to do some elevation counts with me. He's a 209 guy.
Yeah, he did a lot more altitude than I did. I had an altitude simulator.
That's why he's a 209 guy.
Probably.
All right, any questions? We're going to wrap up with Bruce in a minute. Go ahead.
Injury prevention. How do you keep injuries at bay?
Injuries at bay. How do we do that, Bruce?
Well, there's a few things that I do. First of all, I try not to run on pavement. So I try my very best to run on a trail or on grass, even on a track. But I try to minimize my pavement running. I don't wear old, worn-out shoes, so I keep my shoes fresh. I'd rather get another pair of shoes than run in old shoes and get injured. The price of new shoes is still a lot less than the price of physio. So, I keep my shoes fresh. If I'm sore, I'll stretch, but I don't do a ton of other stretching. And I think that there's a few benefits to that. One is that you keep some muscle tension, which you need, because that's what gives you strength in your muscles. But also, I think that some people overstretch and that causes some injuries. If I've got an injury issue or something that's sore, if it's on both sides, I figure I train power. If it's on one side, I have a sports chiropractor. Actually, I have a couple that I go to, and that's my first line of defense. I get aligned and squared, and that solves most of the issues. If you've got a good sports chiro, then they're your first go-to, your first line of defense. And so I keep ahead of that. I don't let things linger. If I'm feeling that I'm injured, I take a day off, I get an alignment. If that doesn't fix it, I get a massage. And then if that doesn't fix it, then I think about physio. Physio is my third line.
So here's a thought. John Brown, as you may recall, could run really slow when he wanted to. 209 guy. And he ran 27:18 in the 10,000. 27:19. Speed kills, right? Like too much quality training. And I think the average runner doesn't run slow enough. Like we're not sure about running slower. Probably because of the advent of Strava, where you're going to be seen if you ran a 7-minute kilometer or 6:30 kilometer. And Wisconsin Badgers had a thing called Badger Miles, and they didn't wear watches. They run a 10-miler, and they just called it Badger Miles, and they were about 7-minute miles. They were fairly fast, but they're also didn't matter. Speed doesn't matter. So, is there any thought there, like, from your experience as well? Running easier, like 80% of the time, or is there?
I think that The biggest difference between elite athletes and recreational athletes is the variability of paces within their training week. So a recreational runner will run most of their running at too fast a pace, and an elite athlete will run their easy days really easy and their hard days really hard. And so there's that greater variability. So one of the things that I emphasize, especially with the online training, is we want to have easy days easy and harder days harder. And easy days would be like 30 to 40 seconds per kilometer slower than your marathon goal pace. So it's really slow. What happens sometimes is you get people that say, I had a great long run and marathons in a week and a half, and I ran it at my marathon goal pace, and it's like, oh, you're trying to try not to be negative, but you just run your marathon in training and not in the race. So I think that, slow down your easy runs, slow down your long runs, and run harder on your hard days.
Great advice. And I think the same guy, John Brown, 209 guy, before Super Shoes, I raced in the same race as him. I was nowhere near. But we warmed down after. Do a 3K warm down. It was too slow for me, and he finished in like 30 flat, and I finished in like 36 high, 37 low. And he was too slow for me. So I think the average runner doesn't realize how slow you can run in times like recovering or easy days. So yeah, good advice. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry, what's your favorite and least favorite type of training to run?
Least favorite and favorite times to run. Bruce.
No times like time to run. Is it a tempo?
Well, I like a long run. If anything, I really enjoyed when I was training for marathons. I really enjoyed doing the long run part and getting out there, and I did a lot of running out on the Alpengoose out towards the western communities and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite. My least favorite was I didn't like hill training, but I also found that hill training was the most effective for me. So although I hated it, I also found it made a huge big difference, and in all types of different hills, sprinting up hills, doing hilly routes, all kinds of stuff. I thought hills really made a big difference, although I hated them. I didn't think I was very good at them.
Maybe that's why you needed to do them, because you hated them, because you weren't very good at them. I don't know. I think you got a question over here?
You mean like taping, like K-tape or like shoe or your feet? If that's where a physio or an athletic trainer is really helpful, because they can help show you how to tape up your K-tape stuff. I know it does wonderful stuff for a lot of people, especially if you're kind of coming off an injury or you have a propensity to have an injury. But I would get the advice as to how to do it from a professional, and then get them to show you how you can do it on the slip.
Any other questions? That was a good one. We're all good. All right, that's good. Hey, you want to do a third introduction, Bruce?
Not good. Two's just great. Hey, well, best of luck, everybody. This is an exciting time. You've got, an amazing opportunity to run a fast race, personal best, a first finish for a marathon or half marathon, and just go out there and give it your all and enjoy every moment.
Well, thank you, Bruce, for doing this. I don't know how many times I've interviewed him after races and stuff, and in writing as well. We've interviewed a lot. And it's always a pleasure. You're knowledgeable. Thank you very much. And from Kathy Noel, the race director, here's a little thank you for doing the interview. And thank you, everyone, for attending. Bruce Deacon.
Thank you.